Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Cross Examinations Live. I am your host, Mike S. Miller. Thank you all for coming in. Today's topic is here somewhere. Where did I put it? The Indian Holocaust nobody knows about. Also persecution. The original topic was persecution because I do have a current topic I wanted to get into and then move into the whole Indian Holocaust. Honestly, it boggles the mind that nobody knows this stuff, but that's public education for you. So let's pop into 11 people watching now, 7 likes, 8 likes. Hey, that's a pretty good ratio there. And so far in his house, who do we have? Hang Solo in first place. Thank you, Hang Solo. Valenid, pulling up second. Derek LaFireman third. And Sailor Moon Love Tuxedo Mask. Sailor Moon Love Tuxedo Mask. I have something to show you. Sailor Moon Love Tuxedo Mask. What's that? What's this? What's this? It's magic in the air. What's this? What's this? My daughter actually finished your commission. All right. So congratulations to Sailor Moon Tuxedo Mask. 15 people watching now. I wonder, are you getting your notifications? Let me know. Yes or no? Good morning, Dater, Chip, Liam, Gray, Dr. Lore, Hang Solo, Adrian, Kevin, and everyone else who's come in. Notification received. Fantastic. Alright, well, from yesterday's show, Cuba, I really only had one comment, and it was that the Comic Book Journeys liked my MC Escher shirt. Fun fact, that's not actually an MC Escher shirt, it's a Star Wars shirt in an MC Escher style. There's little R2-D2 and Han Solo and everybody's on it, but it's like they're doing little scenes from Star Wars, but built off of an MC Escher background. So it's a really fun little interesting thing. I like to confuse people with my shirts, so I think I have appropriately done so. Muerta, what's up, Muerta? Are you going to San Diego Comic-Con? Or are you and your brother up for a meet and greet tonight? Let me know. I will message you privately with details. What up, Hugh? Liam, you're only here because Facebook notifies you. Well, hey, at least Facebook notifies you. Kevin Ryan says, yes, but did Eden get paid for the commission? On that one, I don't remember. I need to find out from her what all she hasn't been paid for. Because she has been paid, she just hasn't been paid for everything. Well, gosh, this is a very heavy and long topic today, so do you guys want me to just jump into it, or do you have any questions? Because obviously I have no questions from the last episode. I guess I'm so thorough in my explanations of everything that no one ever has any questions for me anymore. I've got a tweet that's going semi-viral. Should I try to promote some smaller Indiegogos, even if somewhat unrelated to the tweet? Sure. Sure, why not? I will be going to San Diego Comic-Con shortly after this show is over. And I'll be wearing my Indicron shirt. I think it smells okay. What kind of Indians am I talking about? The kind that answer all your phone calls, Sailor Moon. That kind. Nothing, which makes the Redskin Indian, American Indian Holocaust look like nothing makes it look like nothing. Well, maybe not nothing. I don't want to say that. But there's you had situations in the American Indian population dying from diseases that were introduced that were not, I'm sorry, nobody knew about germ freaking warfare and carried the bubonic plague on purpose in blankets. It's just, that is such garbage. They didn't even know what germs were. How were they going to know what germ warfare was? But yeah, there were entire tribes of people wiped out by communicable diseases. Just like happened in Europe when they started trading with Asia. Those pesky Chinese people brought frickin' plague to Europe, and nobody knew where it came from. Nobody knew what it was. And it killed, was it half the population? Something like that. The above haha was about smelling the shirt to see if it's still wearable. I do not like to smell. I do not. If my shirts smell at all, I don't wear them. It just drives me bananas. Bird flu, unrelated coma. Yeah, that's them trying to do it to us again, huh? Those Chinese people. Hang Solo, yeah, but this Holocaust isn't. I grant you, there were a good number of deliberate, slaughterings of Native American Indians, but a good amount of it was sort of Black Death. Yeah, sort of Black Death here, except for here they want to blame the Europeans for the plague here, but nobody in Europe blames the Chinese for the plague in Europe, right? It's just, if it didn't happen to a white man, it's a white man's fault. But the Holocaust in Red Dot India was 100% like Hitler kind of Holocaust, right? And I am going to read a very long article that is, you're going to be like, why don't they teach this at all? Public education. All right, 36 people watching now. Let me go ahead and move on to the topic. That is not the right. All right, let me fix that. All right, starting with current topics. Again, from ChristianHeadlines.com. 4 Christians executed in Burkina Faso for wearing cross necklaces. Now, before I even get into this, if I wanted to do videos on Muslims persecuting Christians or Muslims murdering innocent people every single day, I could. This show could be completely about that. You go to Christian. Let's go to Christian Headlines. You go to Christian persecution. Okay, that's China executed in Burkina. 10 Christians dying every day for their faith in Nigeria. Christians forced to reconvert, banished from village in India. That's China again. That's China. Well, I guess China's pretty bad too. But every day there are stories about Christian persecution. And I don't do them. I don't do them every day. Maybe I should. Do like persecution update. But it gets really, really bleak. But I'm trying to make a point here that someone is arguing with me on Twitter about Christians are just as bad as Muslims. You're freaking retarded. Alright, so anti-Christian violence has continued to spread across the West African nation of Burkina Faso, with a further 4 believers shot dead in cold blood at the end of June. According to Christian persecution charity Open Doors USA, on June 27, heavily armed militants were spotted entering the village of Bani with the aim of hunting down the followers of Jesus. A small community was gripped with a paralyzing fear as the militants proceeded to order everyone to lie down. Then a search ensued. The terrorists had one clear mission: find those who claimed Jesus as their Lord and Savior. They searched tirelessly for anything that might identify the individuals as Christ followers. Then, tragically, they succeeded. 4 men were found to be wearing crosses around their necks. As soon as it became clear that these men were Christians, they were dragged away from the group and brutally executed. Their names were David Zongrana, Felipe Zongrana, Theophile Ouedraogo, that's a cool name, Ouedraogo, and Ernest Casoaga. At this point, we don't know their ages or anything about the families David, Philippe, Theophile, and Ernest left behind. Wrote Lindy Lowry at Open Doors USA, just that they followed Jesus and their faith was a part of them. They weren't afraid to make a public statement of their belief in an area known internationally for its display of 7 adobe mosques, 6 of which are built at the top of Bani's main hill. Unsatisfied with their murderous acts, the men then went on to torch David Zalgrana's shop. The group had headed through another town, Pogranoma, where they warned residents under pain of death against reporting the incident to any government or military individuals. The militants also ordered that any Christians in the community must convert to Islam or risk execution. Some 27 Christians have been murdered in Burkina Faso since February 27th. Heartbreakingly, the number of attacks against communities of faith has increased dramatically in recent years. In 2016, there were 12 reported jihadist attacks. In 2017, there were 33. And in 2018, this number rocketed up to an astonishing 158. Yeah. So that's today. That is the modern world we live in, where Muslims, doing what Muhammad taught them, continue to do what Muhammad taught them to do. Convert people by the sword, kill those who refuse. Covering every story about murdered Christians would be depressing. Exactly, unrelated, comma. I just feel like it's an important time. This is and then I don't know. Let's I don't want to just skip past this particular. Brothers, I'll meet you in heaven. These are the people who are awaiting for Christ to remember. It says that under the mercy seat in heaven are the martyrs who are waiting for Christ to avenge them. The Avenger, the one Avenger. And hey, those 4 are now sitting up there under the mercy seat with God in heaven, paying the ultimate price for their faith. But it is not just people of the Christian faith who the Muslims have targeted for destruction over the years. As much as Muslims love to kill Christians and Jews, their hate of polytheists is like second to none. Second to none. Pete Mack says Surah 9:5 is the worst command ever. Go ahead and spit it out, Pete. I'm going to go ahead and move to Seeknet.com. Now, I grant you, this is Seeknet, which means it's an Indian site, but this is all stuff that I've found from other reports as well. The number of Indians killed by Muslims is it makes Hitler look like a rank amateur. There's basically a 9/11 worth of death at the hands of the religion of peace every few years, like clockwork. Yeah, we just don't report it here in America, or it gets very, very little reportage. Editor's note: Sikhism believes in defense of all people, including themselves. This article is not meant to single out any religion, but tyranny itself. But oddly, the only religion guilty of all the tyranny in this article is Islam. The genocide suffered by the Hindus of India at the hands of Arab, Turkish, Mughal, and Afghan, all Islamists, forces for a period of 800 years is yet formally unrecognized by the world. I'm gonna guess that almost none of you know about this. I've known about it for years, and I often use it as a point of argument. But this is a long article, so get your popcorn and get ready. With the invasion of India by Mahmud Ghazni about 1000 AD began the Muslim invasions into the Indian subcontinent, and they lasted for several centuries. Nadir Shah made a mountain of the skulls of the Hindus he killed in Delhi alone. Hold on a second. What do you want from me? Sorry, I just got a message from Edwin. I want to see if he wants to pop in or not. He's probably at work. Is he in the chat? Is Edwin in the chat? What the heck? What's happening here? I apologize once again. Sorry, this makes for terrible TV. Oh, Planned Parenthood president says Christians can support abortion. Here's what Billy Graham have said. Busy. All right. Let's start again. With the invasion of India by Mahmud Ghazni about 1000 AD, began the Muslim invasions into the Indian subcontinent, and they lasted for several centuries. Now imagine for a minute that Hitler didn't escape. You know he didn't die. That World War II didn't end. But that Hitler continued and started his Reich and his 1,000-year reign. And for several centuries, rather than for several years, he continued to slaughter people. Right? This is what we're talking about. Several centuries of Hitler-type people. All under the direct incentive and teachings of their prophet, Muhammad. Liam says, please just quickly Google image search Eid al-Adha blood. It's nothing too graphic, I promise. Well, Liam, let me get through this. Nadir Shah made a mountain of the skulls of the Hindus he killed in Delhi alone. Babur raised towers of Hindu skulls at Kanua when he defeated Rana Sanga in 1527, and later he repeated the same horrors after capturing the fort of Chandari. Akbar, not Admiral, ordered a general massacre of 30,000 Rajputs after he captured Chittorga in 1568. Bahmani sultans had an annual agenda of killing a minimum of 100,000 Hindus every year. And you thought cops needing to make quota was bad for tickets. Minimum 100,000 Hindus. The history of medieval India is full of such instances. The Holocaust of the Hindus in India continued for 800 years, till the brutal regimes were effectively overpowered in a life and death struggle by the Sikhs in the Punjab and the Hindu Maratha armies in other parts of India in the late 1700s. We have elaborate literary evidence of the world's biggest Holocaust from existing historical contemporary eyewitness accounts. The historians and biographers of the invading armies and subsequent rulers of India have left quite detailed records of the atrocities they committed in their day-to-day encounters with India's Hindus. They bragged about it. They were happy to follow in Muhammad's footsteps because this is what Muhammad teaches. Is this what Moses teaches? No. Was there particular people that Moses warred against? Yeah. So this is not an all-out call to destroy everyone. There was never any all-out call to destroy or subjugate everyone who did not bend the knee to Yahweh, the way that it is explicit in the Quran to do so to those who will not bend the knee to Allah. Not the same God, by the way. I don't remember where I left off. These contemporary records boasted about and glorified the crimes that were committed and the genocide of tens of millions of Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jainists, mass rapes of women, and the destruction of thousands of ancient Hindu, Buddhist temples and libraries have been well documented and provide solid proof of the world's biggest Holocaust. Can I get a raise of hands? How many of you know about this? And how many of you are completely just ignorant about any of this happening? I'd like to know. What happened here? Oh, I'm on the... No, that's not right. I lost the chat. Did I lose the chat? Bear says, never heard about this. It's frightening when you think of the Moses story. Only 2 people out of hundreds of thousands made the trip from Egypt to the Promised Land. I know. Never heard about it. Dr. Lore knows about it. That's the difference. Terrible things have been done in the name of Christianity, but it is not a part of Christian teachings. It is, however, an integral part of Islam. Never heard of it, says Excal. It's in most history books. Really, Igor? Not in any of the ones that I grew up being taught. Of course, public school, like I said. Didn't know about the historic genocide in India. Perkindo knew about it. TA knew about it. I read about it a couple years ago, but forgot about it if I did. Ignorant, I did, says Kevin Ryan. I have some knowledge of it, says Hang Solo. Valened says never heard it. Black Wolf says I know some. Peter Allen says I know of it, but not the specifics. John Wood did not. Alright, let me see. Somehow or another I closed out my window. Just want to make sure I don't have this on full audio. Alright, so quotes from modern historians. There is no official estimate of the total death toll of Hindus in the hands of Islam. I always go with like 80 to 90 million. A first glance, it's important testimonies by Muslim chroniclers suggest that over 13 centuries and a territory as vast as the subcontinent, Muslim holy warriors killed more easily killed more Hindus than the 6 million of the Holocaust. Well, yeah. Farishta lists several occasions when the Bahmani sultans in central India killed 100,000 Hindus, which they set as a minimum goal whenever they felt like punishing the Hindus. And they were only a third-rank provincial dynasty. The biggest slaughters took place during the raids of Mahmud Ghaznavi during the actual conquest of North India by Muhammad Ghori and his lieutenants, and under the Delhi Sultanate. He also wrote, the Muslim conquest down to the 16th century were for the Hindus a pure struggle of life and death. Entire cities were burnt down and the populations massacred, with hundreds of thousands killed in every campaign and similar numbers deported as slaves. Every new invader made, often literally, his hills of Hindu skulls. Thus, the conquest of Afghanistan in the year 1000 was followed by the annihilation of the Hindu population. The region is still called the Hindu Kush, i.e., Hindu slaughter. It's true, I've heard of it. Another historian says, the Mohammedan conquest of India is probably the bloodiest story in history. The Islamic historians and scholars have recorded with great glee and pride the slaughters of Hindus, forced conversions, abduction of Hindu women and children to slave markets, and the destruction of temples carried out by the warriors of Islam during 800 to 1700 AD. Millions of Hindus were converted to Islam by the sword during this period. The massacres perpetuated by Muslims in India are unparalleled in history, bigger than the Holocaust of the Jews by the Nazis or the massacre of Armenians by the Turks, more extensive even than the slaughter of the South American native populations by the invading Spanish and Portuguese. Oh, come on, they slaughtered each other. From the time Muslims started arriving, around 632 AD, the history of India becomes a long, monotonous series of murders, massacres, spoliations, and destructions. It is, as usual, in the name of a holy war of their faith, of their sole God, that the barbarians have destroyed civilizations and wiped out entire races. While historical events should be judged in the context of their times, it cannot be denied that even in the bloody period of history, no mercy was shown to the Hindus unfortunate enough to be in the path of either Arab conquerors, Sindh and South Punjab, or the Central Asians who swept in from Afghanistan. The Muslim heroes who figure larger than life in our history books committed some dreadful crimes. How are they heroes? They're freaking Hitlers. It's a whole religion of Hitlers. Mahmud of Ghazni, Qut ud-Din Aibak, Balban, Muhammad bin Qasim, and Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq all have blood-stained hands that the passage of years has not cleansed. Seen through Hindu eyes, the Muslim invasion of their homeland was an unmitigated disaster. Well, I would say it's seen through anybody's eyes other than a Muslim. The only person who would not think that this is absolutely genocidal, monstrous behavior would be those who agree that you spread Allah by the sword. Period. And maybe some crazy leftists. Their temples were razed, their idols smashed, their women raped, their men killed or taken slaves. When Mahmud of Ghazni entered Somnath on one of his annual raids, he slaughtered all 50,000 inhabitants. Aibak killed and enslaved hundreds of thousands. The list of horrors is long and painful. These conquerors justified their deeds by claiming it was their religious duty to smite non-believers. I gotta take issue with that. It's the same thing as this, who someone's saying, oh yeah, Mike hides behind his religion to have these beliefs. No. My religion guides my opinions. Right? My religion, my faith, the Bible tells me what is right and wrong. I do not justify my opinion by combing through the Bible and looking for things that I agree with. I have changed my opinion. I have changed what I believe is right and wrong to match as best I can. And if I'm wrong, and if I disagree somewhere, then correct me. It is the same thing with these guys. They were not justifying their mad slaughter of innocent people with the Quran. The Quran told them this was what they do. Muhammad modeled this behavior for them. So freaking annoying. Cloaking themselves in the banner of Islam. They claimed they were fighting for their faith, when in reality they were indulging in straightforward slaughter and pillage. What's your excuse for Muhammad, Mr. Historian? Was Muhammad cloaking himself in Islam? Muhammad was Islam. He did this same thing in his years when he was alive, and his followers were just doing as he did. Followers of Christ follow Christ. Followers of Islam follow Muhammad. You can tell when a quote unquote historian has a particular bent. A sample of contemporary eyewitness accounts of the invaders and rulers during the Indian conquests. I told you this was going to be long. Sorry. The Afghan ruler Mahmud al-Ghazni invaded India no less than 17 times between 1001 and 1026. The book Tariq-i-Yamini, written by his secretary, documents several episodes of his bloody military campaigns. The blood of the infidels flowed so copiously at the Indian city of Thanissar that the stream was discolored, notwithstanding its purity, and people were unable to drink it. The infidels deserted the fort and tried to cross the foaming river, but many of them were slain, taken, or drowned. Nearly 50,000 men were killed. In the contemporary record Taj ul Ma'asir by Hassan Nazim-i-Nashfari, it is stated that when Qutb al-Din Aybak, or Turko, Afghan origin of the first Sultan of Delhi, conquered Meerut, he demolished all the Hindu temples of the city and erected mosques on their sites. In the city of Aligarh, in the city of Aligarh, he converted Hindu inhabitants to Islam by the sword and beheaded all those who adhered to their own religion. The Persian historian Wasaf writes in his book, I'm not going to read it, Aluddin Khilji? Al-Din Khalji captured the city of Kambayat at the head of the Gulf of Cambay. He killed the adult male Hindu inhabitants for the glory of Islam, set flowing rivers of blood, sent the women of the country with all their gold, silver, jewels to his own home, and made about 20,000 Hindu maidens his private slaves. This ruler once asked his spiritual advisor, or Qazi, as to what was the Islamic law prescribed for the Hindus. The Qazi replied, "Hindus are like the mud. If silver is demanded from them, they must with the greatest humility offer gold. If a Mohammedan desires to spit into a Hindu's mouth, the Hindu should open it wide for the purpose. God created the Hindus to be slaves of the Mohammedans. The Prophet hath ordained that if the Hindus do not accept Islam, the Prophet," that's Muhammad, ladies and gentlemen, "hath ordained that if the Hindus do not accept Islam, they should be imprisoned, tortured, finally put to death, and their property confiscated." Timur, I want you to listen to that name. Timur was a Turkic conqueror and the founder of the Timurid dynasty. Timur's Indian campaign was recorded in his memoirs, collectively known as Tazk-i-Timur. In them, he vividly described probably the greatest gruesome act in the entire history of the world, where 100,000 Hindu prisoners of war in his camp were executed in a very short space of time. I have always heard this was a single day. Timur, after taking advice from his entourage, says in his memoirs, "They said that on the great day of battle those 100,000 prisoners could not be left with the baggage, and that it would be entirely opposed to the rulers of war to set these idolaters and foes of Islam at liberty. In fact, no other course remained but that of making them all food for the sword." Timur thereupon resolved to put them to death. He proclaimed throughout the camp that every man who has infidel prisoners was to put them to death, and whoever neglected to do so should be executed and his property given to the informer. When this order became known to the Ghazis of Islam, they drew their swords and put their prisoners to death. 100,000 infidels, impious idolaters, were on that day slain. Maulana Nasir ud Din Umar, a counselor and a man of learning, who in all his life had never killed a sparrow, now, in execution of my order, slew with his sword 15 idolatrous Hindus who were his captives. During his campaign in India, Timur describes a scene when his army captured the Indian city of Delhi. In a short space of time, all the people of Delhi fort were put to the sword, and in course of 1 hour the heads of 10,000 infidels were cut off. The sword of Islam was washed in the blood of the infidels, and all the goods and effects, the treasures and grain, which for many a long year had been stored in the fort, became the spoil of my soldiers. They set fire to the houses and reduced them to ashes, and they razed the buildings and the forts to the ground. All these infidel Hindus were slain, these infidel Hindus. Their women and children and their property and goods became spoil of the victors. I proclaimed throughout the camp that every man who had infidel prisoners should put them to death, and whoever neglected to do so should himself be executed and his property given to the informer. When this order became known to the Ghazis of Islam, they drew their swords and put their prisoners to death. Hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. This is thrilling stuff. The Mughal Emperor Babur. All right. So that's the end of the Timur chapter. So in history, Timur was actually I can't remember what his there's something wrong with a leg or something like that. So he was known as Timur the Lame. And it has been shortened to Timurlan. Does that ring any bells for anyone? Timurlan. Do you remember a certain kid whose mother named him Timurlan, who set off bombs at a certain Boston Marathon? These are the people we're importing. They were refugees, right? Timurlan's mother was a refugee. Timurlan Tsarnaev was named after the worst mass murderer of the worst mass murdering religion on earth. I think that should have been a tell. Yeah. I think that should have been a tell. The Mughal Emperor Babur, who ruled India from 1526 to 1530, writing in his memoirs called Baburnama, wrote, I attacked Chandari, and by the grace of Allah captured it in a few hours. We got the infidels slaughtered, and the place which had been Darul Harb, a nation of non-Muslims, for years was made into a Darul Islam, a Muslim nation. That's what they want to do here. That's what they want to do everywhere. That's the whole goal of Islam. Take over the entire world. In Babur's own words, in a poem about killing Hindus from Baburnama, he wrote, For the sake of Islam, I became a wanderer. I battled infidels and Hindus. I determined to become a martyr. Thank God, I became a killer of the non-Muslims. The atrocities of the Mughal ruler Shah Jahan. Dr. Lore says, tumor is estimated to have killed 17 million people, about 5% of the population of the world at the time. Yeah, this is why you want to name your kid after him. It's a little like naming your kid Adolf freaking Hitler. I mean, Basha Nama Kaziv Basha Nama Lori, and goes on to state, when Shuja was appointed as governor of Kabul, he carried on a ruthless war in the Hindu territory beyond Indus. The sword of Islam yielded a rich crop of converts. Most of the women, to save their honor, burnt themselves to death. Wow. Most of the women burnt themselves to death. Oh my. Those captured were distributed among Muslim noblemen, Muslim noble, quote-unquote noblemen. The Afghan ruler Ahmad Shah Abdali attacked India in 1757 and made his way to the holy Hindu city Mathura and Bethlehem, the Bethlehem of the Hindus and birthplace of Krishna. The atrocities that followed are recorded in the contemporary chronicle called Tariq-e-Alamgiri. Abdali's soldiers would be paid 5 rupees, a sizable amount, at the time, for every enemy head brought in. Every horseman had loaded up all his horses, and the plundered property, and atop of it rode the girl captives and the slaves. The slaves' heads were tied up in rugs like bundles of grain, and placed on the heads of the captives. Then the heads were stuck upon lances and taken to the gate of the chief minister for payment. It was an extraordinary display. Daily did this manner of slaughter and plundering proceed, and at night the shrieks of the women captives who were being raped deafened the ears of the people. All those heads that had been cut off were built into pillars, and the captive men upon whose heads those body bundles had been brought in were made to grind corn, and then their heads were cut off too. These things went on all the way to the city of Agra, nor was any part of the country spared. I know this was centuries ago, but it still breaks my heart. Let's see. Christians have been equally disgusting through history in the name of God. So no, they have not, Laserduck. No, they have not. There have been some bad things. They were doing so under the name of a church that was not letting them read the Bible. So they were being told to do something because they believed it was what God wanted them to do, but it was not. Christ never would have ordered people to just go out and randomly kill, like the Catholic Church. I've read Fox's Book of Martyrs. I know what you're talking about. The Catholic Church and the Catholic Protestant wars and stuff. Yeah, there was evil done, and it was done in the name of God, but it was not done according to Jesus's will. You cannot read anything in the Bible that would lead you to believe that you should go out and kill at least 7 Protestants a day, which is one of the reports in Fox's Book of Martyrs. You can't. But if you read the Quran and you believe in that, it is a direct message to kill infidels. You can't get around that. There is a very huge difference between following someone who is duping you into thinking you're obeying Jesus because you're not allowed to read the Bible. Literally, it was a capital offense for you to own or read a Bible. They would kill you for owning a Bible. But these guys had the Quran, and these guys were obeying and following in the model of the founder of the Quran, the writer, the author of the Quran. So, no, don't try to make that comparison. Please, you are being probably, I don't know. Maybe you're just ignorant. If you're not ignorant, you're being intentionally obtuse. So, please don't make that comparison. Banda Singh Badar was tortured to death after being imprisoned for 3 months. The heart of Banda Singh's son was put in his mouth in an attempt to humiliate him. Why we should remember. The biggest Holocaust in world history has been whitewashed from history. Yeah, just in here. And this is a group of primarily Christians who have probably studied enough about this. And it looks like 70% of you or more never heard of any of this. When we hear the word Holocaust, most of us think immediately of the Jewish Holocaust. Today, with increased awareness in countless cinema films and television documentaries, many of us are also aware of the Holocaust of the Native American peoples, the genocide of the Armenian peoples in the Ottoman Empire, and the millions of African lives lost during the Atlantic slave trade. Europe and America produced at least a few thousand films highlighting the human misery caused by Hitler and his army. The films exposed the horrors of the Nazi regime and reinforced the beliefs and attitude of the present-day generation towards the evils of the Nazi dictatorship. In contrast, look at India. There is hardly any awareness among the Indians of today of what happened to their ancestors in the past, because a great majority of historians are reluctant to touch this sensitive subject. The world seems to either ignore or just does not seem to care about the many millions of lives lost during the 800-year-long Holocaust of Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists in India. The Indian historian Professor K.S. Lal estimates that the Hindu population in India decreased by 80 million between 1000 and 1525. In an extermination unparalleled in world history, this slaughter of millions of people occurred over regular periods during many centuries of Arab, Afghan, Turkish, and Mughal rule in India. Many Indian heroes... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Many Indian heroes emerged during these dark times, including the 10th Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, and also the Hindu Maratha king Shivaji Maratha, who led the resistance against the tyranny and eventually led to its defeat by the late 1700s, after centuries of death and destruction. The modern world today is facing a global threat from organizations and groups of terrorists such as ISIS, Taliban, and Al-Qaeda, whose ideology is chillingly similar to that of the perpetrators of the world's biggest Holocaust in India. Let us hope that the bloody lessons of the past are learnt so that history does not even have the remotest chance of repeating itself. So, I don't know. I feel like it's important for people to know this stuff because it seems painfully obvious that too many people do not. Honestly, even they don't teach this stuff even in India. It's their own history. It's their own history. It would be like the Jews not teaching the Jews about the Holocaust. Granted, the Jews are a much smaller population, and I think the Holocaust wiped out like 50% of the Jews on the planet, something like that. Well, heck, I think that's probably a similar number to the number of Indians that were killed. No? 80 million. 80 million. And that's not, obviously that's not all. Islam before the population of planet Earth reached 1 billion, Islam had murdered 240 million people. A quarter of the world's population decimated by a single religion. And then people have the balls to say, oh, Christianity is just as bad. No. Not even close. Not even the worst popes in history could have dreamt of being as blood-drenched. And keep in mind, the Crusades were a defensive war against Islam. So, yeah, let's just be realistic here. Let's just be realistic. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Sketch says, I think that Rose people, they don't like the Taliban. Told me they'd been writing for hundreds of years, if I remember right. Well, that's the thing, Sketch. Fighting. Yeah, fighting. The idea that someone whose people have undergone this with Islam would compare someone saying pride is a sin to that kind of people, that's what makes it even more insulting. Who it came from. Who it came from. It'd be like a Jew comparing Christians or me to a Nazi. That's as bad as it is. Bitcoin at 6,000. Sell. Silly person. Black Wolf says, Mike, just think how popular a comic book done of this would be. Yeah, it's funny because historically they're so proud of it, right? The Muslims were so proud of it. But if you did this story, they would probably jihad your butt. Sketch, I'm sorry, but you're blind. You're blind, brother. Because the stuff you believe, and I know you believe it, is the very stuff that Roe thinks was comparing to these Muslims. The same freaking ideology that slaughtered 80 million of his own people. So his words spoke for themselves, and his response was his response was to double down. So loyalty is not everything, Sketch. Principles are everything. Principles. And they're not the same thing. Loyalty is a principle, but your principles have to override your loyalties when you know someone is wrong. Dr. Lore for $5 says, the Ghazis in Afghanistan used to castrate their enemies and choke them to death by stuffing their severed body parts down their throats. I have a serial killer in Deal with the Devil that does that. Serial killer. Mecca says, lots of people died, but only these guys are complaining. I have to hear this fairy tale a lot. Hugh says, Roe should stay at the kids' table of Comicsgate and let the adults handle things professionally. Sketch says, the physical is the physical. His people fought the Taliban. These things are not in question. I don't know what you're talking. I'm talking about the Taliban. I don't know what you're talking about either. Comparing what Islam has done to what Christianity has done is like comparing Nazi concentration camps to border detention centers. Perkindo for the win. Gold label. Take a star. That is exactly how twisted that comparison is. Exactly. Thank you. Igor Bond. Basically, some people did something. Am I lagging or is it just on my computer? I don't see any F's, but I keep getting pinwheels on my screen. Zapruder says, one thing we need to do is be more proactive in the gospel and get people saved and born again in the Arab countries. It's not just a physical fight. Yeah, God is moving. God is moving. There are some miraculous stories of salvation over there. And, God says, and I think he's talking to the Muslims, come out of her, my people. The Arabs are descendants of Ishmael, I believe, or at least they claim. And that is, they are, Abraham's seed. So they are God's people. But they are just, they're seeped in the blood of the whore of Babylon. Sketch says the Hindus in his family in India fought the Islamic genocide horde, and that is not the subject at hand. That's awesome, Sketch. Then he should know better than to compare someone saying that pride is a sin to the freaking Islamists. Sketch, is it not that hard to understand? Zapruder, bro, when a woman was let off death row for being Christian, thousands of people took to the streets and protest demanded that she be stoned to death. You cannot argue with them. Where's that? What? I do not even know what you're talking about. Let me double check something. Ooh, all right, we got 3 minutes left, guys. For Kindo, you win the chat for the day. My hair is down. Is it party time? No, it was shower day. It's shower day. I washed my hair. Gotta let it dry. Gotta get ready to go to Comic-Con at some point. Sketch says, I mean real fight like my friends in the Third Infantry, like in India, not just his Twitter honor thing. The people, why are you still butthurt over such an obviously ridiculous joke? It's a joke. It's not a freaking joke, Sketch. I know how riled up you get at the most ridiculous things, dude. The dude compared me and Doug to extremist Muslims. How on earth do you consider that a joke? Knock it off with this loyalty bullcrap and stand on principle. Your loyalty is blinding you to the truth. It's not a freaking joke in any way, shape, or form. That happened in Pakistan if I can recall correctly. If you can find a story by searching Christian women acquitted. Oh, okay. Before you go, please Google Eid al-Adha blood. All right, I will. Why? They're just killing... What are they killing? Cows? Oh, lambs? Oh, it's like a sacrifice thing? Oh, it's lambs. Or it's sheep. Rivers of blood. Sheep's blood. There's one report, I can't remember what it was, that, there was a, I think it might have been the Straits of Hormuz. I'm going to get this wrong, but the visual is the same. There were so many heads in the river that the boats couldn't move in one of these Muslim massacres. Sketch says, I get riled up about receipts and business. I can call me Taliban. You can call me anything you want. I won't give you the power over me this joke has over you. All right, Sketch, you're freaking full of crap. You are full of crap. Sorry. freaking joke. I see where your loyalties lie, Sketch. I see where your loyalties lie. Certain parts of War Campaign have been attacking Mike and Doug TenNapel in ways that they believe are anti-Christian. Yeah, it's not just anti-Christian, dude. I get messages from former War Campaign people because of this crap that Rose pulling, that they were just done. They left. Like, and you know, I don't out them, but you can see some of the founding eight war campaigners are out there literally saying I'm not war campaign on their freaking Twitter handles. So if you pay attention, lines were crossed. People whose loyalty is overriding their common sense, or maybe they don't have any common sense, or their principles, in order to stay loyal to someone who obviously thinks that their beliefs are the same as these extremist Muslims who have murdered 80 million of their own people. Well, hey, you do what you got to do. I know where my loyalties lie, and I know where my principles stand. I believe what I believe. I can do no other. Anyways, got to get ready for San Diego Comic-Con. Thank you all for being here. Hope you have a great, glorious day. It's Thursday, people. It's Thursday. Don't know what that means to you, but I got stuff to do. Love you. God bless. Godspeed. Be good.